Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, preserve us, guide us, and forgive us. أحبتي في الله, a question was asked about burning out while seeking Islamic knowledge. And that seeking knowledge, in order to not depend upon translations and others' teachings, to be able to have that connection with the sources, the divine sources, and other details as was mentioned in the question. In addition, ahabati fillah, what kind of knowledge is wajib? What kind of knowledge do we need to know? So those are also were mentioned by the questioner. So it's very important, ahabati fillah, for us to know and understand that like anything in the dunya, we do need to pace ourselves. That we need to take things step by step. And as the scholars mention that, and it's a statement attributed to some of the Salaf, that when a person takes knowledge, jumlatan, by, a lot of knowledge at once, they lose it jumlatan. They lose a lot of knowledge at once. So for example, if you overbear yourself and you're trying to learn all the sciences and you don't really have that ability to be able to indulge in different lectures or different durus, different books and different sittings with the scholars at once, then you suffice yourself to that which you're able to handle. You take things step by step. And then you will achieve something good, obviously with fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the whole way. So you don't want to take on too much and then lose too much. And this is something the Salaf found that was something that they witnessed through their experience and their khibrah. And Ahl al-Ilm, up until this day, still mention these types of narrations and these types of statements of the Salaf, referring to taking on too much of a burden at one time. Secondly, ahabati fillah, it's very important to not just pace yourself, but to have that consistency. Do not have the inqita', the adam inqita', as our Sheikh Abu Salah mentioned, and Sheikh Abdullah Mar'i mentioned as well, that you should be careful of ceasing to seek knowledge. For example, you seek knowledge for several months, you're very vigilant, and then you stop altogether. A year later, you start the same book. Okay, this happens to a lot of people. It's happened to myself. And so this is a very dangerous thing because you lose everything that you had previously a lot of times. A lot of times it's very difficult to pick up where you left off or even close thereto. Instead, you find yourself, you lose. So you want to be consistent in your path of seeking knowledge. The third point that I want to mention is strive your best to have husnul suhbah, to have a righteous companion that you guys can challenge one another, you guys can memorize together, you can revise together. But if you can't have that, if you don't find a good companion who's on the same path as you, and this probably goes into the fourth piece of advice regarding this question and the question of others, is that you want to have an outlet. And I've said this before, you want to have an outlet. So we are not computers. We may not always be. So find some activity that you enjoy, something you're passionate about, or something you can at least let your mind go, so to speak. Let your body lead. For example, exercise, hiking, biking, skateboarding, lifting weights, punching a bag. Whatever the case may be, whatever thing, knitting, sewing, it doesn't matter. Something you need to break out of that routine. And I find that for myself tremendously, I have to have that balance. I have to have that physical balance, and as well as seeking the knowledge. Some people are able to seek knowledge almost around the clock, and that's how they live their life. And that's going to depend upon the person. I am not that person. I have to break it up. Sometimes I have to get away from everything and do a whole nother activity. And I love to, for me, the balance of me as a person is that I need the physical, mental, and spiritual. I need all of those things to bring them together. So you have to find an activity that can help you so you don't burn out, so that you don't burn yourself out. because seeking knowledge, especially if you get into an Islamic university or some program, that can be stressful and it can lead to burnout. So you need, even a lot of the tulab al-ilm that I would witness, for example, in Saudi Arabia in some of the universities, they would play pool, they would go, some of them were always in the gym, you know, when they had time or made time for the gym. They made that time, they had that balance. There was a lot that I knew, especially Westerners and others, would, you know, they have those activities. So that's going to depend upon the person. But I advise, so you don't burn out, is that you break it up. Sometimes you don't even want to deal with your books at all. You don't want to see it maybe for a whole day. You just go off and just break free because you have other things you have to deal with, things in the dunya. So you want to balance yourself to the best of your ability so as to help prevent burnout. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.